Well, good morning, YouTube. Arizona RE here. Out and about on the Tiger this morning. Uncharacteristic bust through the middle of town here. I really don't like stopping at every traffic light. Anyway, I'm on an uncharacteristic bus through town because heading over to a work acquaintance's home. He's got an old Triumph that has been sitting in his garage for a couple years without being ridden. So I'm going to look at it and help him assess what it's going to take to get that thing going again. So we're heading over to see what it looks like. Speaking of looking at friends' bikes, as you guys may or may not know, AZdesertdog, he's a friend of mine. He's also a motovlogger from the Phoenix area, and he's temporarily living down here in Tucson on working for a construction project. So he's splitting his time between Tucson and his home. So he brought his bike out last week, his Tiger 800, and after work one day he and I went for a little ride, and he'd seen Gates Pass in my videos so many times that he wanted to go out and have a look at Gates Pass. So I took him out there, and it was a great little meetup. We got to chit chat and we rode up to Gates Pass, and we did it at night, or I mean right before sunset. So it was kind of funny because all the times that I've shot video up there, it was always in the morning, you know, but in this case it was in the evening, so we got to catch the sun from the other angles, and that was kind of neat. So I took him through there, took him through Saguaro National Park. It was cool. The thing of it is, I've never had just some kind of goofy mishap since I switched to GoPro. Back when I was using all the no-pros, all the anything but GoPro cameras, I would suffer little mishaps all the time. Missed audio, or the camera corrupted a file on the card or something like that. So I'd never had any mishaps since I switched to GoPro, and that's, just such been my experience. I realize there are other people who have had issues with GoPros and certain types of SD cards or whatever. I've not had those issues. In fact, the only issues I've really had, and I've managed to sort them out through testing, was with, quite honestly, some of those microphone cables that everybody else swears by. I tried to get a 90-degree angle microphone cable a while back, and it worked okay for a while, but after a while it just started falling apart. So I went back to the GoPro cables, which I never had a problem with. I was just looking for something that was a little cleaner looking. And anyway, so I was vlogging the entire time I was with him. We even did this cool thing where we stopped and we switched bikes, because I've got more of the Roadie version. That's the one with the more sporty suspension, made for really sticking to the road, I'd say 90% of the time, and then some mild graded dirt once in a while, pretty much like I use this bike, right? Getting to campsites and stuff like that. Whereas his bike is the XC or XCX version, and that version is has got a much more supple suspension, a suspension that really absorbs a lot of the bumps and junk in the road, and articulates a lot for when you're off-roading and doing a bit of more serious off-roading than you would on the Roadie. So the two bikes being the same bike, just with some minor changes, they actually ride quite different. Anyway, I videoed a whole vlog including test riding his XCX, and when you know it, I didn't get the video. And guess what? Through no issue with GoPro. Man, I just did it to myself. What happened was I flipped the camera on when I first met up with him, and And before I started talking to the camera, I looked at it and saw that there were still 3 files on the SD card. And normally I reformat my cards right away as soon as I poke them back into the camera. So I went through the process of formatting the card, and no big deal. And then strapped my helmet on, and then I just neglected to hit the record button. And my only guess is that all the little faff that I did pushing all the buttons to reformat and get it back to camera mode, that ultimately what ended up happening was I brain farted and I forgot to hit the damn record button. So all that, it was a great little vlog, chit-chatting with Arizona Desert Dog, and catching up and getting to test ride his bike and how he has it set up versus my bike and how I have mine set up, and all the differences, man, and you just didn't get to see it. So watch for it on his channel. At least you'll get to see it from his point of view. That sucks. There it is. I can tell you this, the suspension was much better, and as you would expect from a little more off-road to road going, you know, the suspension absorbed a lot of what you feel with this bike from the road. Now, you know, where that comes in handy with this bike is it's transmitting a lot of information to you and how you're handling the bike on the road, your lean angles and all that good stuff. You want to be connected to the road with a more firm suspension. But his bike, man, it just absorbed all those little bumps that I'm aware of with this bike. Which, to tell you the truth, this bike suspension is even more plush than the Bonneville, because the Bonnie, man, you feel every single little bump on the road. But yeah, I was surprised at how not so twitchy the drive-by-wire system was. It's ride-by-wire, and the bikes that I've test ridden with ride-by-wire in the past, this isn't still ride-by-cable, but the ride-by-wire stuff I've always felt was like kind of twitchy, you know, because you get used to this little bit of slack that's in the cable, and when you get on ride-by-wire, sometimes, you know, as soon as you give input, the throttle reacts, and that can be a thing for a lot of people. But I was surprised at how comfortable I felt with it. I'd say after taking off from my first stop on that bike, I was absolutely acclimated to it. One thing that was way different though, and this may have something to do with the wider tire and the smaller tire on the front of this bike, but leaning in on turns, it felt a little more sketchy on his bike than it did on mine. I mean, on mine, I don't have any hesitations or anything like that turning in. But on his bike, I kind of did like a half U-turn to get out of the weird parking lot we were in. And yeah, I felt a little wobbly, and no doubt that I'd get used to it after riding it. But just compared to this bike, as far as the road going features go, I would say that this bike definitely had the better feel as far as being on pavement. But I will say this, I know from being off-road on this bike, you get going too fast and the suspension on this bike does not compensate well. So you have to be moderate in how you do it. Whereas if you have the XC version, you can get after it a little better. It is a beautiful day out. It's about 55 degrees out right now. Real big puffy clouds in the sky. The ceiling's kind of low. You can't see the tops of the mountains. Now we're out here on Tucson's east side. Alright, we'll have to go check this out. We're getting pretty close to his house. Well, so we had a look at that 2007 Triumph Scrambler. It's got he had some decent upgrades to it. It's got some slip-ons, the pea shooter slip-ons. It's got some other add-ons too. I think they added on a tachometer. It's got powder-coated wheels, which I don't think were stock. I think they came chrome. So, but it has been sitting for a while. Battery's dead. The gasoline has probably turned to turpentine and sludge. This ethanol additives, man, they turn gas rotten after a very short period of time. So there's some carburation that needs to be cleaned out. Anyway, I may take this on as a project to help get it back on the road. Anyway, like I said earlier, just busting around town right now. It was just more fun to take my bike than to hop in a truck and drive across town and run errands. And I'll catch you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Maybe I'm hungry, but all the restaurants around here food smells pretty good. I'm not used to riding through Tucson thinking, boy, it smells good.